The central nervous system. The central nervous system, CNS, or neuraxis, makes up the majority of the nervous system. Located along the body's central axis, its upper part is housed within the skull and is known as the brain. The lower part of the spine, which runs inside the vertebral column, is called the spinal cord. The brain is divided into three parts, namely the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. Its role is to analyze and process information from the peripheral nervous system, PNS, and to send decisions or commands to it. The brain. Located in the front part of the skull, the brain is a vital organ that regulates all vital functions. It receives information from throughout the human body via afferent nerves, integrates and analyzes it, and then responds by sending new signals back down to the relevant parts of the body via efferent nerves. Brain function. The brain is responsible for most vital functions, such as heart rate and breathing functions that we are not consciously aware of. But it is also involved in decision-making, behavior, memory, and consciousness. The human brain contains around 100 billion neurons. It also contains glial cells. It is immersed in a fluid known as cerebrospinal fluid, CSF. External configuration of the brain. The brain is shaped like an ovoid mass occupying the large cerebral cavity of the skull. A large fissure divides the brain into two hemispheres, the right and the left, the interhemispheric fissure. The two hemispheres are connected by the corpus callosum. Dimensions. The major anteroposterior axis, 17 cm. The transverse axis, 14 cm. Height, 13 cm, weight, 1200 g, color, grayish-white. Texture, soft and smooth. Each hemisphere has three faces to describe: external affairs, internal faces, underside. Each surface features clefts and furrows which delimit, respectively, lobes and convolutions. The brain is divided by three sulci: Sylvius fissure lateral and inferior, Rolando's fissure lateral and superior, perpendicular cleavage posterior. The three fissures divide the brain into four lobes: lobe frontal, parietal lobe, lobe temporal, occipital lobapital. The lobes, in turn, are divided into convolutions by sulci. The frontal lobe consists of four gyri: the ascending frontal gyrus, Fa, the superior frontal gyrus, F1, the middle frontal gyrus, F2, inferior frontal, inferior, F3. The parietal lobe consists of three gyri: the ascending parietal gyrus, Pa, superior parietal, P1, inferior parietal, P2. The occipital lobe consists of six gyri: first occipital, O1, second occipital, O2, third occipital, O3, fourth occipital, O4, fifth occipital, O5, sixth occipital, O6. Only the first three gyri, O1, O2, O3, are visible in a sagittal view. The temporal lobe consists of five gyri: first temporal, T1, second temporal, T2, third temporal, T3, fourth temporal, T4, fifth temporal, T5. Only T1, T2, T3 are visible on a sagittal view. The parietal lobe consists of three gyri: ascending parietal, Pa, superior parietal, P1, inferior parietal, P2. Each lobe has a clearly defined role. The frontal lobe, voluntary control of skeletal muscles, personality, intellectual processes, verbal communication. The parietal lobe, skin and muscle sensations, understanding and forming words. The temporal lobe, interpretation of auditory sensations, auditory and visual memory. The occipital lobe, conscious vision, integration of movements with visual stimuli, interpretation of visual stimuli by comparing them with past visual experiences. Internal structure of the brain. In a frontal section, the brain appears to consist of gray matter, white matter. Gray matter, it is divided into two territories. The cerebral cortex, a thin peripheral layer. The basal ganglia, deep structures represented by the lenticular nucleus. The caudate nucleus. The claustrum. The white matter, it occupies the space between the cortex and the basal ganglia. Composed of two types of fibers. The projection fibers occupy fairly large areas. They are situated beneath the cortex and between the basal ganglia, and define four zones. The oval center, a large area located beneath the cerebral cortex. The internal capsule, between the thalamus and the caudate nucleus. The external capsule, between the lenticular nucleus and the claustrum. The extreme capsule, between the claustrum and the cerebral cortex. Interhemispheric fibers connect the two hemispheres. These are white matter fibers that are essential for the coordination of the right and left hemispheres. They are the corpus callosum, the trine, en plus des substances blanches grises. Le cerveau contient aussi des ventricules. Ils sont au nombre de trois. The lateral ventricles. These are two crescent-shaped cavities located at the base of the cerebral hemispheres. They are arranged at an angle, pointing downwards and forwards. They communicate with the third ventricle via openings known as Monro's foramina. The third ventricle. It is an odd-numbered, midline cavity situated deep between the two thalami. Brain reports. One skull. The brain is situated within the skull, where it rests on the base of the skull and is covered by the skull vault. 2. The meninges in groups of 3, they separate the brain from the skull. We find the surface area at depth, the dura mater, solid fibrous coating. Lines the entire skull. It branches out to cover most of the major veins in the brain. The arachnoid line the deep surface of the dura mater. Together with the pia mater, it forms the subarachnoid space, which contains cerebrospinal fluid. The magpie mother lines the surface of the brain, closely following its folds, fissures and convolutions. The Diencephalon. Epiphysis, or pineal gland, secretes the hormone melatonin. Role in the regulation of the circadian and annual cycle. Thalamus, relay center, almost all sensory information passes through it. Role in sorting information. Role in emotions. Hypothalamus, regulation of the endocrine system via the pituitary gland. Assessment of sexual function. Temperature control. Regulation of hunger and thirst. Regulation of the sleep-wake cycle. Role in emotions. Pituitary gland, it secretes the hormones FSH and LH, which regulate most of the body's responses.